Hello, my name is Carl Goodman. I'm an avid hiker, still am. I finished my last season in the Smokies as a Ridgerunner. Boys and girls, I'm going to tell you a story about 40 young people that hiked up in the Smokies. Now, they had 4 leaders, and these 4 leaders decided they want to protect the kids, so they put 2 of them in the back and 2 of them in the front. And that's the right thing to do, and keep the kids in between. The problem is that all trails aren't just single trails. They have other interconnecting trails. And what happened with this group, I want to tell you, was they got up to a fork in the trail. And those leaders, when they got there, the first 2, they didn't wait for all of them to catch up or for any of them so they could pass the direction on to the ones behind. Had they instructed all the kids to do that, they'd have been a lot better off. But they went right on and they took the left fork. Okay, and that's where they should have. But the problem is that when they did, they went right on ahead. Well, the next group of kids that came through, 2 girls decided they should try to go to the right because they didn't know which one to pick, so they just picked the right. Before the whole thing was over with, there were 3 more boys that went right, supposedly following the girls. And then there were 4 more after that. And all the rest of them went left. And they circled back around and ended up back at Cades Cove, which they had originated from. But the girls and the boys passed me when I was up at a shelter as a Ridgerunner and sitting, it was toward evening. The girls were 13, all of them were 13 years old, and although I spoke to them, they kind of hunkered down and decided they should go on. Well, I let them go because I didn't know what they were. Well, when the boys came, then I knew they were just kids, and I got to talking with them, found out what the problem was, notified the Park Service, kept the boys there. It so happened that I had a whole bunch of young Marines there, and their commander decided there were 2 young, fast men to go after and that they would get the girls, which they did. And I had notified the Park Service what happened. They caught up with the young ladies and brought them back. By then there was 4 more that came by us, and we had all of them, 9. It was 8:30 at night, too late to start those kids back down that mountain. They should have already been back in their beds at home at the campground. But there they were up there, all shorts and T-shirts, no food. A lot of them didn't have water. Well, I filtered enough water for every one of them. I gave them all the snacks I had, and those Marines provided them other snacks because the Park Service said you keep them up there and bring them down in the morning. And I just kind of set up most of the nights, what it boiled down to. And we had all 9 kids had something to keep fairly warm except the 3 boys. And they just run out of extra things. And so I built a fire for them and kept a fire going most of the night and kept them fairly warm anyway. But then I hiked all of them out at 6:30 the next morning back to the ranger station at Cades Cove. Well, nobody was hurt. Nobody was lost. But the bottom line is those 2 girls could have got lost. And they would have never, where they were headed, they would have never come out of that park before dark. And let me tell you, in that dense woods. So I'm telling you this, there are rules, and leaders and hikers alike need to respect those trails and understand and keep maps, keep compasses, and know where they're going. So there was no tragedy with those 40 kids. And there was no tragedy with those 9 that went the wrong direction. And we are thankful for that. So let's protect the park system, be safe out there, and enjoy everything you see and do. Let me quickly talk to you a little more specifically about leave no trace. Whatever you take in there, you take out. That's pack it in, pack it out. Protecting and respecting animals. Don't get too close to them. Just enjoy them from a distance and don't disturb them. And they'll be safe and you'll be safe. Whatever you do, don't feed any animals. That is the worst thing, the unsafest thing you could possibly do for yourself and the animals. You might find something up there because there's a lot of old homesteads throughout the park, and there are a lot of things that we might consider antiques, I guess you'd say. I'd like to take that home. But if you do, nobody else will get to see it. And if you disturb an old chimney and an old cabin or something, or want to leave writing, graffiti, you don't want to do those things. You want to enjoy it. You want to look down there and see. Maybe you might find just an old axe head or many, many different things you could find. I told you about the fire. A fire is a good thing. It's a soothing thing. It's useful, it's beneficial. But in the park, it's something that can be a terrible thing if not controlled. And that's how a big part of the park and a lot of part of Gatlinburg, Tennessee was burned down a few years ago. Carelessness. Have a nice fire if you want one. Keep it low. Put it out when you're done. Completely out. And it would be the best thing. When you see that shelter and you spend the night in one of those shelters, it took a lot of work to build those things. And believe it or not, it takes a lot of maintenance to keep them up. They've been remodeled and overhauled several times over the years, since way back in the late 20s or early 30s. And those shelters, if you see graffiti, you look upon it as what it is. Graffiti, it's not art. Art's for somewhere else. You're just leaving a mess for somebody else to see. And I've seen plenty of it, and I've cleaned up a lot of it. It's one of those things. Like I said, don't be a part of it. If you do these things and think about what effect you're going to have, you'll have a good feeling and you'll appreciate what you've seen and done. And you'll want to, as time goes on, go back and enjoy it again and maybe take somebody with you. And I certainly hope you do.